approval of the agenda? Motion and support. Any changes or corrections? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Public comment. You have 3 minutes to address the board. Please feel free to step up and give us your comments. Public comment. Hearing none. Move on to the minutes of the July 16th meeting. Looking for a motion. Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Next up are the appointments. Looks like we've got for the Land Bank Authority, no applicant. Community Corrections, no member or applicant. Upper Grand River Watershed Council, Glenn Remington is the current member and an applicant. If we could have a motion. Motion and support. Any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. His name will be forwarded. And still an open seat on the Department on Aging Advisory Council. And we'll continue to advertise for those. Next up is the Enterprise Group Semi-Annual Report. Good morning, Tim.
Morning. I believe you have these electronically, but I made copies just in case, Chairman.
Need a motion to receive? Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried.
Just going to go over a couple highlights with you. The first several of them on the report are about employability and talent, which you know we've talked about many, many times when I come before you. Still the major issue that comes up when we are doing our retention calls. A number of initiatives that the EG's been involved in. Last year we did the first manufacturing day. We're going to continue that this year with the focus on all 300 plus or minus freshmen at JPS, and again with 7th graders at Hanover Horton, Concord, and Columbia. The companies that were involved last year all actually re-upped, and we've had a couple more. So the industry-based manufacturers have been very, very willing to open their doors and invite young people in. This year they're going to all focus on doing if you will, a hands-on exercise with the young people so they understand a real example of how math might apply or how CNC machining works. So we're kind of excited about that. We found out last year from our feedback from the students that the ones that were most excited were the ones that actually got to experience something rather than just walk through and look. So we're going to make it more participatory this year. First Robotics, you may have read or seen a lot about that, especially in the springtime. Detroit hosted the international competition for First Robotics. Actually, Concord finished in the top 25 in the world, which was great for us. They were the only group locally that competed in the international competition. Coming out of that, a lot of the business leaders, particularly from Consumers and Mackey, felt like we needed to push that down into the junior high level to get more young people involved in STEM education, to learn more about science and math, more hands-on learning again, more opportunity. The challenge with that is you have to raise money for those middle school teams. So we met with superintendents in early spring and offered that between the three organizations we would raise the funds to seed those 10 middle schools that didn't have teams. 7 middle schools raised their hand and signed up. As of last Friday, which is an update to this, we've raised the whole $15,000 to actually get all 7 of those schools up and running this fall. And we'll be having a kickoff event for that in September. 2 of those schools, or 2 of those teams will be at Parkside. So really trying to make an attempt to get into the diverse population, some of the underserved community, and get them a better opportunity to do some hands-on STEM learning. That's always been part of the challenge, is how do you reach down into the kids that really haven't had the opportunity to learn that. So we're pretty excited about that. Actually this afternoon we're going to be working with teachers from every district in the county. You'll recall about 2 years ago we did a work ethic survey and asked our employers to actually define what they felt work ethic was. And we got a lot of different answers and responses. From that survey, Northwest Schools actually ran a pilot program the last 2 years, and every senior is ranked on elements of work ethic in school. That program has been adopted by the county superintendents, and so this afternoon and then over the next several weeks, we'll be training teachers in every high school to actually employ, we're calling that the PACT skill, all these different work ethic things, and each senior's, every teacher in every class will be ranking these students, and it will show up on their, actually on their records. So kind of back to the old days where we all got citizenship scores, if you will, for things that were those soft things that we all were supposed to do, and how we worked with others and all those things. Actually, we're reintroducing that kind of in a little more formal way. We'll be having our leadership forum, which is later in September. You'll see on the back, September 19th. We're going to have some of the superintendents and teachers actually come and share with the business community what these skill sets are, how we're measuring them, trying to be as subjective as it is, trying to find objective measurements for each one of those things so that it's a comparable from school to school. I'm sure there'll be some hiccups and we'll stub our toes a couple times, but it's a continuous improvement process, so hopefully we'll improve it as the year goes on, but this will be our first year for it. We spent a lot of time, as you know, on the industrial park. Thanks again to Mike and Chairman Elwell for working on this. We've done a lot of staff work, pardon me, over the last couple months since we've actually had the stuff purchased, the land purchased, rezoning it from ag to light industrial, initiating the industrial development district process, doing our development packet, doing a land sale matrix, setting up the timeline for sewer extensions. The Blackman Utility Committee actually approved that last week, so it'll go to the Blackman Board coming up at their next meeting, and then starting conversations with JDOT about road improvements. So there's a lot of things that need to get done. At the same time, we have 2 local companies who've expressed a significant interest, actually to the point that they really want to start to tie up some of that land for expansions or new locations of existing facilities they have here in town. That's going to have to be timed a little bit with some of these infrastructure improvements that we're working on, but we think we can keep all those balls in the air and move this forward. But that being said, we're probably talking 10 to 12 months out by the time all these right-of-ways get purchased and the extensions get done, especially for the sewer. But it's progress, a lot of progress from where we were a year ago. Over the past 3 years, we've been working on upgrading the sanitary sewer lift station for Mackey out at the Parma LDFA Industrial Park. That first phase is finally now completed, and the second phase will be installing some new pumps, but those pumps, the purchase of those pumps will be based on the flow that goes into the new tanks, so we make sure that we're sizing them appropriately. That was part of the problem in the past, that we were losing pumps because they weren't sized big enough. The pumps would burn out, and then we had a sewer backup issue at Mackey. But that process is well on the way, and that's being funded by the LDFA. I mentioned a couple of local expansions. 2 other projects that we're working on. One is a large commercial project along the I-94 corridor. Hopefully you'll hear more about that in the coming weeks, if not months. They'll be sizable, somewhere in the 40 to 50,000 square foot range. And another local manufacturer that's expanding at their existing facility over the next 18 months actually has purchased some other businesses and are bringing them back into Jackson. We'll be able to tell you more about that as that actually gets finalized. And I believe actually next week, we're hosting a major engineering firm that's looking to open an office here. So we've already communicated with them about some office locations. We'll be doing a tour with them and some of their staff in the upcoming week. Our procurement and technical assistants had a great, they call it their second quarter. They had 109 contracts awarded which were worth over $2 million, and that served 18 clients. So They continue to do a good job. They actually, that's just for Jackson County, they actually cover 5 counties with 1.5 people. So we're pretty proud of the hard work that they do. I mentioned the Leadership Forum. You'll all get an invitation to that. We hope you come and show up and give your feedback to this employability skills issue we're working on. And then the JCBRA is having their progress report to the community on September 20th at the fairgrounds, and hopefully you'll be able to participate in that. Be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, any questions of Tim? Steve?
Tim, since our number one resource is employees, what type of strategic advertising are we doing in the region to show the affordability of Jackson, the quality of the environment, and the affordability of homes, and how good our education system is now?
As far as the advertising, we have a very limited budget. Our budget only allows us to have about $10,000. So we really try to focus that more on social media rather than print advertising. Print advertising is ridiculously expensive. We did do a little print advertising last year when Cranes Detroit did the article on Jackson, and that limited space, and that took almost all of our whole advertising budget. So we really try to focus on social media and those messages. Some of those affordability messages, we really haven't focused on those, to be honest with you, Steve. I mean, we can, but attracting people to the community, we've really been more focused on trying to increase the skills and that increasing the people in that talent pipeline. But so that's something we certainly can take under consideration. We're doing our budget right now, and so we can look with we're actually going to have an executive committee retreat in a few weeks, and that's marketing and budgeting is one of those things that's on that agenda.
With social media as your chosen methodology to put this together, what type of formulas are you going to be using? Are you going to actually be using advertising then on Facebook, or are you going to be just producing storylines for all of us to share?
We actually try to push stories out through Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook, but advertising itself, we haven't really gotten into that game.
You make those links available or articles available to members of the organization so we can increase the
Yeah,
footprint on
absolutely.
Facebook?
And what we try to do is send those out when we do those. We can make sure that Debbie and I can speak, but I can make sure that you're getting those if you're not getting them now. But we put those feeds out, and actually anything that's of more significant than just a social media blast, we always put links on the webpage for those people to be able to pull those up.
Thank you. Any other questions, Tim? Phil?
Good morning, Tim.
Morning.
You keep focusing on manufacturing. I need truck drivers.
And
Is there anything?
well, Manufacturing Week is manufacturing focused, but the rest of these issues, for instance, the Employability Skills Pact is really soft skills. It's not focused on any particular area. And I know truck drivers is the number one, it's still the number one thing in Jackson County, and it's the number one thing in the United States. And I'm going to tell you your business, but I also know at the federal level, they're starting to have conversations about lowering the age for CDLs and trying to loosen some of the rules so they can get more people involved and interested in but we don't, what we try to do is when we get every Monday morning, we get Southeast Michigan Works open jobs. So usually every Monday morning there's between 800 and 900 jobs. Truck drivers are usually the number one. What we try to do is then push those out to our network with our links to here's the open jobs available. So it's not just manufacturing, it's everything that fits in that 900.
If you need a vehicle for a hands-on, I could bring one to a site if you're going to have.
Okay.
Maybe you could expand the manufacturing site to include outside other opportunities, because truck driving goes hand in hand with manufacturing. Got to have materials in, materials out.
Yeah. Well, and they're all linked together. It's the same with IT. You know, that IT, people think, well, IT is not manufacturing, but every manufacturing organization has IT in it, right? So they're all, none of these really can be separated into specific pies. And one of the reasons, and I know you have heard me talk about labor participation rate, one of the reasons we're trying to force this down, this idea of work into the middle schools, not just the high schools, but the middle schools, is we've got to get more people understanding the world of work and interested in having a job. You know, that sounds simple, but when we have almost 14,000 people that are over the age of 18 and under the age of 66, that aren't working or aren't looking for work, that's a huge challenge. We've got to shrink that number.
Yeah,
And part of it is exposing them to the world of work, not just the world of manufacturing.
It's
but the
kicking
world
and
of work.
screaming, I think, in some when you expose them to work, because
Yeah.
it's not on their list of things to do.
Right.
But I have more opportunities than I have truck drivers.
And that's one of the issues that we actually are facing, and it's across the board. I mean, if you talk to healthcare, they have the same issue, from CNAs all the way to doctors. So it's hard for us to say, okay, we're going to go out and promote this open job segment, because everybody's job segment has those openings.
We're at a place right now where there's more well, you've already said it, more jobs than we have people.
Right.
Maybe we ought to shift our focus a little bit and find some people to fill the jobs.
Right.
Thank you.
One of the, I think, tactics that actually hats off to the superintendents, is that they actually get as a group that their clients aren't just their students, their clients are the business community and those open jobs, and how do we get all those students understanding that there's a job there for all of them, whether they're going to go on to college or go to certificate programs or whatever it is. So they've really been kind of helping us with this whole idea of pushing work down into the middle school, so that without their help, we wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah, and it's actually, we're starting to feel it in the office personnel too, where we just need more people, and they don't seem to be out there.
Right.
Hard to find them. Thank you.
Any other questions of Tim? Thank you. Next up, we have the prosecutor with a semi-annual report, and I see he has four-legged help and two-legged. Morning, Jerry.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Abe. No, boy. Sit. Abe, sit. Good boy. Good boy. Okay. Good morning, everyone. It's the semi-annual report for the prosecutor's office. I brought with me one of our newest members, Abe, our canine advocate. Abe. Okay, boy. Good boy. This is not his normal setting. He hasn't been in this room before, but he's been with us almost 2 years. We got him in November of 2016. And Abe's constantly in training. His job is to be able to sit for at least an hour in the courtroom by the witness stand for a child witness who's testifying about a sexual assault. So Abe's doing well. He's pretty much a younger dog, so it's a little bit difficult for him, but he's done well. Now he's turned 3. We're thinking he's probably going to have a lot more patience sitting during trials, but he's done extremely well. He comes from us through the Leader Dog School in Rochester Hills. So he basically was raised to be a leader dog for a blind person, and was trained, actually was born in southwestern Michigan. After 8 weeks, he went with a lady in Pennsylvania for a year, and then qualified for Leader Dog School and was there for 3 months before basically he had difficulty with their stair test. You have to be perfect leading a blind person downstairs, up and down. And so, to our benefit, our fortune, we got him through the Canine Advocacy Program, and so Abe has been with us since then, basically training. He's well known in the courthouse. He's been a great boost to our staff, morale, definitely a stress reducer creature, but he's really helped out kids. He's had a couple different trials, and he's also beneficial when we have child assault witnesses who come to our office for counseling meetings, preparing for cases for court, to be present and to offer comfort for those children. So he's done a great job for us there. So we expect big things from Abe in the future. If you look at our PowerPoint, basically it starts out with warrants, petitions through the first 6 months of this year. If you note that warrant request reviewed, we're currently at about 3,100. And currently we're basically on track to exceed what we did in 2017. And it looks like we're going to exceed our record number in 2016 of 6,067. So I don't foresee that slowing down. So most likely we're going to be over 6,000 warrant requests, which is going to be pretty significant for us. If you look at the other numbers there, juvenile petitions reviewed, we're at 386. I believe that's going to exceed what we did in 2017 as well, so we should exceed 700. Warrants authorized currently 2,384, and so it looks like we're going to be on track to be more in line with 2016 at the end of this year. And then the next slide, how warrants are logged. I just want to make a note to the commissioners here. Oftentimes we think that, it's a pretty simple process, but with our paperless system that we have, the OnBase software, basically it's been very successful in many regards, but one of the things that has caused us issues is that all of that information, all that data has to be entered into the computer system. And so what that means is everything we receive from a police department or agency regarding requests that we should review a case for possible criminal charges has to be inputted into the system. It sounds simple enough, but when you look at the warrants, if you're having 6,000 warrant requests a year, every one of those warrants that are reviewed, all that data has to be entered into the system before an assistant prosecutor can review it. So typically, if you look at it, how the warrant request can come into our office, basically it can be in a paper form, like this, or it can be by email, which is electronic, or it can be a combination. One of the things, we haven't really had a standard system where we require, it's all paper, it's all electronic. In addition to that, when that comes in, our legal secretary has to basically verify that information on that warrant request is accurate. Typically, things like date of birth, a spelling of a name. And why that's important is because one of the things we have to do in logging into the ACTs, the Adult Case Tracking System, is that we also, we don't have our police departments run the criminal histories for each warrant request. We do that. We've got a lien license with the state. And so you have to have the correct name, you have to have the correct date of birth, among other things, in order to get the right criminal history. If you don't have that, you're not going to get the right criminal history. It could be for someone else. That's important when we're reviewing a case for possible charges. In addition to that, things may come along with the warrant request or the police report. There could be photos, there could be audios like 911, there could be an interview of the suspect in the case, there could be some type of surveillance video. There's supplemental police reports, Secretary of State records. So all of those things have to be put into the system before a warrant review is reviewed. And so look to the next page. You can see our current system doesn't allow us typically to enter CDs or DVDs, so we have to have a separate file where that's got to be, those come in, they have to be logged. So we have them in the office. We have to provide discovery if it's charges issued to the defense on those things. In addition to that, once that gets done, then the assistant prosecutor basically is assigned to review those, and has to make a decision: do we have enough evidence to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt? And if so, then the warrant is authorized, but then the legal secretary prepares it. And then it's generated, it's signed electronically by the assistant prosecutor, and then it's printed out for the police agency then to take downstairs to the second floor of the courthouse to a district judge to swear to the warrant and get into the system. So it's quite a long process. I know that sometimes that can be frustrating, but it depends on the case. If you have a major felony, it could be 4 hours just to enter one particular case. If a murder case, there's a lot of different information that's part of that warrant request.
Jerry, can I interject something here?
Yeah.
I agree with how complicated all this is. It's kind of like herding cats, I think, when they're trying to get all these things together for a report. And you're working on a plan, I think, to make that a lot easier, flow better, make it better for the prosecutor's office and us. And you'll hopefully be bringing that at some point, right?
Yes, Commissioner Hall, we're referring to something that's a module that's added to the current software we have. It's called the LEAP module. And basically, how that works is that it really allows police agencies to work with our office in a secured electronic form where all of this information I've talked about basically gets entered at the police station and sent to us electronically. All of this information, it's approved by Lean. So that would all come into our office, and the way the module works is that it actually it bypasses the need for us to really scan every single piece of information that comes to us currently. So it's a huge time saver. It's very efficient. In addition, it has other really neat qualities or characteristics. One of them being is that, let's say we've got a murder case that comes in request, and then that typically means that there's extra police reports or supplemental police reports that are done. Well, they may come in after, several weeks after the first warrant request. This program actually allows that to be entered automatically. It goes to the right case file number, and we're notified of it so that we know there's a new report that comes in, and it goes to the right spot. In addition to that, this LEAP module allows for better tracking of subpoenas with our police agencies. It's better for them, better for us. So overall, it has many benefits. Other county prosecutors' offices you're seeing that more in use, such as St. Clair County, Monroe County, with great success. So it really would be a huge help for not only prosecutor's office, but local law enforcement for public safety to be a more efficient process. So the next slide is basically this current year, so far 6 months, some major felony convictions. Anthony Gilia, basically, as you know, in the end of March, we had a murder trial, lasted over a week. This was the Facebook murder case. Successful prosecution, defendant was convicted of first-degree felony murder and home invasion, first-degree and felony firearm. This is the case involving the death of Brittany Southwell, house here in the city of Jackson, and really happy with that result. It's really difficult when you have a young defendant who was 19 at the time it happened. It certainly evokes a lot of jury sympathy, so really pleased with that result. Another major felony conviction this year just happened recently, the Tracy Lawrence case. As you recall, this was the case that happened in the northwest part of a county in Springport Township, more of a rural area. This was a case where two 18-year-olds were trespassing by the defendant's truck behind his house, and they were unarmed. They started to run away, and he shot them, killed them with his .22 rifle. That was a very significant verdict, guilty as charged of second-degree murder and felony firearm. The reason for that is that certainly raises issues about Second Amendment rights. How far can a property owner defend their property? It was interesting in this case. I think initially the media did not portray the facts or the evidence. I think it was portrayed that the two teenagers were breaking into the back of the home, and that's why they were shot. As it turned out, that was totally false. They never came to the house. They never tried to break into the house. And in fact, the defendant himself admitted that never happened. So, and also the defendant admitted that they never had any weapons in their hands at all that he saw. And they were running away. So it was a pretty interesting case. Really pleased with the verdict. That's really difficult in that sense when you have those issues involved. So very pleased. A couple other cases mentioned, also Ladarius Woods, Neil Freeland. Ladarius Woods basically is one of our guys we've had in the city, violent offenders, like gang members using guns and drugs. That was a conviction for assault with intent to murder, got 8 to 20 years. And then finally, Neil Freeland, this is the individual involved in the delivery of heroin causing death, and it ended up to a plea of controlled substance less than 50 grams, got a sentence of 10 to 30 years in the Department of Corrections. We continue to be a very busy office. Looking in the upcoming months of the remainder of this year, if you look at some of the cases coming up for trial, August, September, October, November, just to highlight some of those cases. In certainly September, we've got Hassan Moore. That was the Morris McBride Jr. homicide that happened at Reed Manor. That's coming up for a jury trial. Hassan Moore is one of our individuals involved with, we believe, local gangs dealing with drugs and stolen guns. Also in October, we've got the Daisha Cooper murder case that's coming back for retrial. And also November, we've got the murder case, Pradietta Cooper, Raheem Armstrong, co-defendants. And so those highlight some of the major cases that are upcoming here. Community impact. Again, we continue to be involved in a number of activities in the county. I think just recently, to highlight something, our Victims' Rights Unit just hosted a Victims of Violent Crime Memorial event that happened this past Saturday at the Cascades Park. It was well attended. We had about 100 people there, showed up. Just want to compliment our Parks Department, Jeff Hovarder. It's our second year at the new site of the Homicide Memorial. Very peaceful site. Really appreciate what the Parks Department has done there. Looking for that to, further be added to or supplemented in the future there. But it certainly turned out really well. Really pleased with that. Community impact continued. We've got our Drug Summit 5 is scheduled for Friday, November 30th at Jackson College again this year. We're looking, we've been planning that the last, 6 months or so, 3 quarterly meetings. Also, we've been working hard with the City of Jackson Police Department, dealing with violent offenders, trying to reduce the number of shootings in the city. It's been a very good collaborative effort. I think shootings are again down this summer, and actually increased the number of meetings to twice a month for June, July, and August, just to try to put added emphasis. And just to give the board here a little bit of what that means is that working collaboratively means that we have cases with certain individuals who engaged with shootings in the city. We meet, and so myself, my chief assistant, I've got 3 assistant prosecutors, so 5 prosecutors in office meet with a representative from the City of Jackson Police Department, typically someone from the Sheriff's Department, and also Blackman, the State Police. We talk about these cases and to see if there's any links or other cases that individual might be involved in. We also stress that it's a no-deals case in court, whether it's a misdemeanor or felony. Also, stress that we want to ask the judge in those cases for different bond conditions. So, they're not, of course, not supposed to have a gun, or they're not supposed to be hanging around a certain area where they were in trouble before. Things like that to try to help to reduce the number of, shooting instances. So it's been successful. Although you can't eliminate all shootings, certainly it's been helpful last summer and this summer as well. And finally, just a little overview just about all the different things we're involved in with our staff. I would just end with this, is just August 6th, we just made a rotational change with our assignments in the office. We started something different last year in my office, where typically in the prosecutor's office here in Jackson County, what you had in the past is that if you're in a circuit court assistant prosecutor assignment, you get to that point, you stay there. And then you have a district court is where you start out with. Given the experience in our staff, what we started last August was to rotate circuit court and district court assignments every year. So we started that last August, and August 6th was the first year we rotated people. The purpose of that is, one, I've seen that model used in Livingston County Prosecutor's Office with success, and what it does is, one, helps keep your circuit court prosecutors fresh, because you don't want them burned out by having trials all the time. Second, you're able to develop the skill level of your whole staff, so the district court prosecutors move up, they get experience. And our office has really used the trial team concept to try to accelerate the learning curve in order to be able to handle a major case. So that's something that's going on as well. So at that, I would just open up any questions you might have about the report.
Commissioners, any questions for Gary? Phil?
Jerry, do you anticipate an appeal on the Lawrence case? Because it does involve Second Amendment rights and such?
Do I expect a deal on that, or
Anticipate an appeal?
appeal? Oh, yes, absolutely. You know, he was convicted of second-degree murder, so, you know, he's going to be going to prison. I would absolutely expect an appeal in that case, yes. Actually, you know, the interesting thing about that case is not only the Second Amendment rights issue, what came out of that trial was kind of a little quirk of the law that is really not well known, is that under Michigan, under common law, you know, a private citizen can use deadly force to apprehend a fleeing felon. And that was a bit of law that was raised as a defense at the very start of the trial. That's the law in Michigan. So typically police officers have policies, they don't do that. Police officers only apprehend a fleeing felon only if they've committed a very serious felony or suspect they've committed a very serious felony. You know, that's unusual. So it means any felony. So not just, you would think a serious felony, someone has just shot and killed someone, someone's been raped, there's an armed robbery. It could be someone tried to break into the garage, you know, break and entry. Yeah, it doesn't involve any human person. So I would hope, and especially if Sarah Leitner, Commissioner Leitner, is perhaps is on her way to the legislature. I've talked to the Prosecutors Association about perhaps asking the legislature to look at that aspect of the law as far as trying to
Well,
modify that.
I had heard, and I read it, so I'm never going to accuse the press of getting it right, but I read that all the evidence of previous B&Es that these two had done, and actually I think some were done before they arrived at the Lawrence residence, we had to throw out, and that wasn't not allowed to be evidence. I mean,
Correct.
we want to make these kids look like they just got out of Sunday school and wandered across his backyard.
Yeah.
Which really wasn't the case.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's an interesting point. But, you know, the judge ruled that they should come in, and we appealed them, and we prevailed. And the reason was, the law is pretty clear. You can't do that. You know, whether it's victim witnesses who aren't there, or it's a defendant, there's certain rules of evidence for impeachment of witnesses, and you've got to be able to show, you know, prior convictions. They have to be convicted of only certain types of crimes. Here, we didn't have that. And it was pretty clear that the defense in this case, I mean, it's a classic defense tactic. You try to take the spotlight off the defendant, and you want to put the spotlight on somebody else, whether it's a police officer, it's a victim, the prosecutor, have the jury think, hey, they're at fault. And so the problem with that defense and why it didn't come in is that, number one, that's the rules of evidence, but that's the law, but number two is, you know, the defendant had no idea they were involved in some other activity in the county. He didn't know. You know, and that was a big element. I mean, if he had known something, I think there would have been a different ruling, but he had no idea what they were doing there.
No, I just wondered about a possible appeal.
Question.
Thank you much.
Okay, any other questions for Jerry? Go ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioner Mahoney.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm pretty good, pretty good. Just one question. I know you said that there's been a ramped up effort in doubling of meetings over the summertime, but I think I'm concerned about the next few months after the summer. It seems like with the shift in season in the world, the shift in when the elevation of crime in the community happens. Just like last year, we had a great summer, but then at the end of the summer, into the fall, is where we experienced a lot of losses last year. So I was just curious if those doubling of meetings that you guys said you're having are going to continue into the fall.
That's an excellent question. You know, this spring, I have to credit Chief Hitt, but we start up the meetings in the spring, and I anticipate they'll continue in the fall, too. I mean, that's a good point. And to credit Chief Hitt, I think he's tried to think out of the box, to try to work with different ideas to try to help reduce number of shootings. I expect there'll be some further actions, ideas trying to put into play to kind of help that whole thing. So, thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks, Jerry.
All right, thank you. Thank you. All righty.
Is Circuit Family Probate Courts. Charles, good morning.
Good morning, all. To piggyback off what Jerry was talking about with the Tracy Lawrence, I wanted to give JTA a plug because they also assisted us in being able to transport the jury all the way out to the crime scene. And from what I understand from getting some of the feedback from some of the jurors, that visit itself helped them determine what their final verdicts were once they were able to. So, but JTA management and folks were very helpful and helping us transport everybody out there. So I just wanted to give them a quick plug. A lot going on right now. I just spent Friday up at the Hall of Justice. We had a special meeting with family court administrators and our lobbyist, Ben Buntkin, that talking about some of the ongoing changes to the child care fund and what we can do to help mitigate some of the changes that they're trying to impose on us to reduce what they reimburse. Talked about raise the age a little bit, but it kind of sounds like nothing's going to happen because there's only like 23 days left in this legislative period. And so we're not anticipating any movement on that unless something really fired up. There's still a lot of support in the House, from what I understand. There's not a whole lot of support in the Senate. I've been working a lot with Deborah, Tammy and I, and the chief judges on the MIDC, Michigan Indigent Defense Council program that we'll be implementing. Attorney contracts were up and posted for RFPs. Closing date was last Friday. We'll be getting with Deborah and reviewing those. Questions?
Commissioners, any questions of Charles on the numbers of the report?
Where are we sitting right now for this year for what we budgeted for child care fund and what's actually been reimbursed? And are we going to have to do an amendment?
I'm not anticipating an amendment. I have not heard any updates from Zoe on that. Usually by now, we would have already had come, had to do an amendment. But right now, we're within budget. As far as reimbursement, they've been very good on, except one of the big issues that there's about 50 of us up at the Hall of Justice on Friday, but they have such a turnover of folks up there right now. One person tells you, yes, the item is reimbursable. We're spending at least another 8 hours a month on processing the 206s and the 207s, which are DHS side and our side, how we bill, because of the amount of extra stuff that they want. But we've had a lot of confusion where one person will tell you, and a lot of times it's small items, like a $5 item. Yep, you can go ahead and include it, and then we just get it all processed, and then they call back and they go, oh, sorry about that, somebody else changed their mind. So there's a lot of that going on, but back to your original question, we're on budget right now. But reimbursements have been pretty good as far as turnaround time.
Commissioners, any other questions of Charles? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have District Court, Tammy Bates. Morning, Tammy.
Good morning. Okay, as usual, all the reports are online there for you. I checked some of them this morning, and it looked as if a couple of the reports were still back from March, so I've already been on email with Sharon, and she's fixed them, so they're up to date now. So if we go through just some highlights that I usually like to do, our overall caseload right now is down from this time last year, about 2,032 cases. The majority of that is in the traffic department. Traffic is down 1,898 tickets, or should I say filings. With that, when we have a decrease of that number, we have to wrap in that the cost of a ticket, we usually average about $100 to $125 per ticket. So where you're seeing a loss in revenue in my budget line, that's the cause. When tickets go down, revenue goes down. So right now in collections, we have collected about 91,000 less year-to-date than we were last year. Our probation department is right on line as far as pre-sentence investigations, which is odd. We're about doing the same as we were last year at this time. Public defender, we're right on target with our budget as what we predicted and what we've spent and what we've collected. Our new community service, which is the, not community service, the SCRAM, which, she missed it. If you're with me and you're looking at community service, that shows the April, which should have been up through July. And the same with the SCRAM unit, should have been through July. I thought she corrected it, but we must have missed it. At any event, we are doing well with SCRAM. SCRAM took the place of our ISP program. ISP was an in-house arrest program where we had several employees that would go house to house, check on, make sure that they're under their house arrest, following their curfew, giving breath tests and things of that nature. What's happened with budgets and the decrease in budgets and the number of referrals to that program, we decided that it was not cost effective to pay the number of casual employees we had going out, the cost of the vehicle, the cost of gas, the cost of repairs. So what we did is we invested in SCRAM units. We did not pay for them, but we are contracted with court services, and those folks that we were checking on daily now have a tether attached to their ankle. So we're monitoring them in that manner. It's saving us money as of right now. The fees that we're collecting for the tether units is paying for itself. So it's not costing us any money, which is a good thing at this point.
Tammy, can I interject a question
Sure.
here? On the revenue and expenditure report, the only note that I had was on contractual services was up significantly.
That's,
It's like 169% of the budget. Is that?
yes,
Okay.
that is that. Because
Okay.
we did not have that budgeted there. It's something that we started mid-process, mid-year. So next year, you will see that will be.
And the
that way.
revenues from the fees is more than offsetting that increased cost there?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on?
Well, I was just going to have you explain what the SCRAM was. I mean, I know what it is because I did a little field trip there, but as far as, replacing the probation supervision or whatever.
ISP?
Yeah. How it's not just like a regular tether. It's,
Correct.
It monitors by your skin.
Correct.
Alcohol and all.
Correct. It monitors alcohol, so they have to be careful of what they eat, what they drink, what type of toothpaste they use, what type of aftershave lotion, what type of lotions and things of that nature, because it will pick up from their skin anything that's going through. So it's attached straight to their ankle, and they come in once a week, and we run the report, and it'll tell us, what they've done the week prior. So. It's not, I like it, we like it, but I really think that the intensive supervision kept them at home. We knew where they were all the time. This way, we're still monitoring them. It's just a change and something that we have to do, and pros and cons to loss in revenue and budgets and things of that nature, so.
So Tammy, it's not live monitoring, they come in every week and it gets downloaded?
That's correct.
Sarah, do you have anything else?
No, it can test more frequently than that. I mean, it reads all the time.
It reads all the time, and
So,
we're
unlike-
seeing it.
Unlike a PBT, I mean, a lot of times they know, oh, they're gonna come between 1 and 4, and then they might go drink. With the Scram, it can test every, 28, 30 minutes, something
Yes.
like that, constantly. And then they just run that report once a week.
And then we run the report once a week to see the activity.
Right, just no live monitoring is what I meant, right?
Correct. It could be, but we're not going to pay someone to
Right.
sit and watch the monitor.
Okay. Chip? Steve, did you have something or no? Okay. Do you have further?
I do not.
Okay, Commissioners, any other questions of Tammy? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the equalization amended L 4029. I don't see anybody here from the department. I think Ruth is at a conference. I did take a look at it last night, and I think there's actually an error on it. We can probably forward it and ask that they review that. It goes to the board. If you look at the animal control millage on the actual form, it listed as 0.5% is what it was authorized at, and it was actually 0.25. They have it noted as 0.25 later in the document, but I think that should be corrected. Phil?
Is this time sensitive?
It goes to the board on the 28th. Mike, does it have to be approved? Well,
It can go till next month.
right. Well, yeah, I think we'll be fine. We're meeting late this month anyway, the 28th, so if we can have a motion to send it on, ask that Ruth review that part, and if it needs to be corrected, it can be for our Tuesday, the 28th meeting. So if we,
Make that motion to send it on, so we
Okay.
have it for the 28th.
motion and support, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Takes us to the short agenda of JC Dot. Morning, Chris.
Morning, thank you. Try to be as brief as we can. We have some big items this morning. All right, our first item is something you've seen before. It's the pothole patching, public-private partnership program. Happy to report, and Jim Cooling is here. He's managed this program very successfully with careful oversight over our 15 contractors. So I do have an updated list on tonnages, if I could pass this out. Do you mind?
You can have a motion to receive. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried.
So what this list shows is how many tons and how many hours were invested in each township, one by one. And this is current as of Friday, Saturday? As of today, basically. So we're basically finishing in Blackman and Summit, or we're done with Blackman?
Blackman is done.
So Summit remains?
Correct.
Okay. So what we're asking for is additional obligation. We are at about $1 million, Jim, is that right now? 920,000. We may go over $1 million. So at the time of this writing, we asked for up to 500,000 because we want to continue the program into the fall and make sure our roads are well patched before winter comes. And we think that'll help save on future patching because we're seeing very high quality work that we think will last. So we're seeking that authorization, and we do have money for patching in our budget.
Chris, I'll give you a comment. Again, I travel the county a lot, and I like what I see on the patching program and the quality of work I see them doing. And there's a couple of particular areas I saw where it's more than just pothole patching. There was an area, I forget on what road, maybe Hendy and Rive Junction, where they took time to go around the shoulder where the shoulder was broke down and used a significant amount there. So I like what I see so far. But my question to you is, are you able to put your finger on what the cost of doing this work would be with our crews versus using the private crews? And I know it frees up our crews now to do other important road rebuilding work, but what would the cost be if we were doing this ourselves and had done the same level of work?
In my estimation, it'd be about the same. I think they're as efficient, if not more so. Would you agree, Bob? as well. Yeah, we've been very impressed. The quality of the work is outstanding. Our crews are just oftentimes, I think, demoralized by it, and it's difficult to keep them cheered up if they're doing it all year. But these guys seem to be go-getters, and Jim's on them, I'll be honest. He keeps on them, and they are very responsive to whatever Jim asks them to do. So, yeah, it's been a successful program.
And then the last comment for me, I think I noted somewhere in your document, you have mentioned that they have found that the potholes were in a lot worse shape than originally thought when they go back and reassess. Phil?
Christopher, I keep getting the issue raised at some of my townships. One fellow in particular claims he keeps seeing these private firms not using safety vests, safety procedure. FYI, I guess. And this was a month ago, so maybe it's been changed, rectified, but he claims he sees it frequently. He is a road patrol officer. Just a heads up, I know. It isn't your guys, you're hiring them, but I think we talked before that was one of the requirements is to keep them in safety gear.
Absolutely. We had a pre-construction meeting kicked off. We actually inspected their equipment. We gave a big talk about safety, vests, signage, and so forth. I don't know if you want to say anything about that, Jim?
We have 2 foremen, there's 15 crews, each foreman, one foreman has 6, one foreman has 7. They check on the crews at a minimum 4 times a day. First I've ever heard that there hasn't been safety vests. I know they stay right on them as far as our policies, as far as their lights. Every morning we check them in with their lights, making sure everything's up to standards. Honestly, I check the crews myself too in my travels with my other contracts. First I've heard of any issues like that, but...
Well, my guys wear safety gear too, and it's sometimes difficult to keep them on them in hot weather or something, but the promise is made, but not necessarily kept one throughout your eyesight, but it sounds like you're doing everything you can do. I told the fellow I'd pass the information along, and that's what I'm doing.
Oh, thank you.
You bet.
Yeah, we do keep a close eye on them, and whenever we get calls, we investigate, and Jim takes action.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Steve?
I met with some landscape people, and they were wondering if it's too late for them to get involved with patching, if they've got crews that are available still. Since you're extending the program, if they came and talked to you guys, could they get involved in patching?
Well, we're going to
Too late.
We're going to rebid the program for next year, correct, Jim?
Correct.
This year's bids have already been received.
Okay.
So, thoughts, Jim?
I have had contractors call me and I gave them all the information to get on the bid list for next year. My goal is once we get done with the first round, I would like to rebid this within 2 to 3 weeks. There's a lot of stipulations in what they're using for equipment we want to change. We found, it was a learning curve this year. But last year we were under the gun. I want to get it all done before winter hits, so come next spring, they have their trucks built. As soon as the plant's open, we're on the road.
Mike, that's a good segue for your question, I think.
It is. I was just curious as to what's the makeup of these contractors. Are they local contractors? Are they all tree contractors? What kind of contractors are we talking here? We have, basically everybody is local except for Gardner Brothers, which is out of Battle Creek. We took 10 of them are $100 crews, and then 5 of them are $120 crews. Personally, I think next time we bid it, most of it's going to be local vendors. I've got a lot of interest. It was a trial error on how this program was going to work. I think the words got out that everything's going smooth. I think both sides are happy with the work that we're doing, and personally, I think everybody will be local next year. Most of them are landscaping contractors. There is Gardner Brothers. They do asphalt, seal coating crews. A lot of them are individuals. They just had 1 tons and got into the program, and actually we're having the best luck with them, so couldn't be more than happier.
Okay, so back to Chris's proposal is for another $500,000 for the program. So we'd be, if there's support, looking for motion to send it on to the full board, unless there's more questions. Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Green Road closure.
Here we have a proposal for, getting my documents in front of me. We're going to have a brief presentation by Aggregate Industries to explain their proposal, but We have met with representatives, and we agree with the idea here. They would like to expand their mining and including mining under the existing road. And so we endorse the idea. JCDOT will receive some royalties for the material mined under the road, and there is a very nice reclamation plan proposed as part of this. So with that, if it's okay, I'll turn it over for presentation.
Chris, can I ask a couple of questions at the front
Sure
end?
can, yes.
So if it's approved, when they're all done, that road won't exist between the private road and the road to the east, correct? Or did they plan on rebuilding it?
It'll be closed for now. It could be reopened, but Bruce, are you here? Bruce has been in charge of a lot of the details here.
I wasn't quite clear on that when I looked through the packet information, and maybe I should have waited for the presentation, but...
I think the reason you're not clear is that we're not either. That's part of looking at the reclamation plan and seeing what makes sense at the time. We're leaving that option available to us, that we can open it if we decide that's what's best for the county. And if we decide that it's not what's best for the county, because what's best for the county is to develop a park or something that only has access from the one direction, then we can move in that direction too. But that decision would have to come back to you for abandonment of the right-of-way if that's what we decide to do.
Okay, and then my last question for now is, do you have any idea how many of the people that live on Cozy Cove or Hideaway Lane come down Green Road and currently go to Loveland or Beaman Road? Do we have any idea?
I don't right now, but Mike Rand was getting me some traffic counts on that over the last weekend, and I will have that information before the full board meeting. We can send that out.
Okay.
We expect it's not a whole lot because the distance is 3 times as long to get from there to Loveland as it is from there to Clear Lake, and Loveland doesn't really have any access to anything like Clear Lake goes directly to the highway.
Is there any public hearing requirement if we choose to do this, to notify these people to let them come?
Not for closure. If you decide later to abandon it completely, there would be at that point.
I see. Thank you.
Okay, to start the presentation?
Absolutely.
Okay, with that, I'll turn it over to Rob and Ethan. Oh, go ahead. Okay, it's already there.
Morning, everybody. I'm Rob Hayes with Aggregate Industries. I'm the Regional Land and Environmental Manager for the company. Joined this morning by Ethan Belden. He's our Area Operations Manager, and what we call the Chelsea plant, it's got a Chelsea mailing address, is within Ethan's purview. So our proposal this morning is to, how do I advance it? There we go. Is to ask for your approval to temporarily close Green Road so that we can mine through it. The current situation is we lease a significant amount of land from MDNR as part of the Waterloo State Recreation Area. We've been operating there since the early 2000s, and we've been a major supplier to a lot of the key players in the local road building industry. You can see the list here. Not only MDOT, but also the county's Department of Transportation, Washington County Road Commission, and several local contractors. Each year we produce about 700,000 tons of material to support the construction industry. Overall, we expect based on the reserves we have now, we'll have 6 million tons that'll have come out of the reserves of that property. We're looking to expand, hopefully, further onto state land, but those negotiations are currently underway. And as you can see, we've had a good relationship with all the stakeholders over the years. So here's the current mine plan, and Ethan, if you wouldn't mind just describing briefly where we're at, what we're doing.
Yeah, I don't know if you folks can see. Okay. Sorry. So in the spring of this year, we finished mining our reserve, which was called Phase 1, and that is clear down where you see the red hash. We were also permitted to mine on the north side of Green Road, which is Phase 2, Cell 5 through 8. Cell 5 through 8 is a very narrow reserve, and because of our reclamation promises with the township, we further isolate more reserves in order to bring the angle of repose back to what the ordinance calls for both the MDNR and the township. In 2018, we anticipate, because of the economy as being as strong as it is, we are mining through Phase 2 faster than anticipated, given the current economic situation. At the end of 18, we will be in Cell 7, and pushing into Cell 8, which should have been in 19. Years ago, Bill Smith Sand and Gravel, my parent company, actually did mine through Green Road at the east end and put the elevation and the road back in. In working with the stakeholders, the MDNR, the Road Commission, and the township, we've had many different thoughts about what the end result of this property could be, as far as putting the road back or making it a seamless piece of property as a park, an interest both on the east and on the west, in a paddock, a parking paddock or something that all the stakeholders agreed on in the end, and we would provide the means to get there, basically. Important to note too is all of the acreage that you see in green was under the ownership of Bill Smith Sand and Gravel and then Aggregate Industries. In working with the state for the area that we're permitted to mine now, we deeded over all of our acreage to the MDNR. So it is now a Parks and Recreation area. And the anticipation in my imagination would be to make this one seamless piece, offering water bodies, rolling hills, things of this nature. We've enjoyed great success in our restoration efforts so far. We've planted thousands of oak trees and rolling hills and things of that nature. It's the gravel pits are no longer. We're not making minefields. We're turning it into something aesthetically pleasing and for the public's benefit. So that is our hope, to mine through Green Road and have one seamless piece. If the Road Commission wants the road back, not a problem. But I would ask that it be looked at all different ways.
Okay, thanks, Ethan. So just to summarize, here's our problem. We're running out of reserves. We're looking at a short-term solution over the next 1 to 3 years. As I mentioned, we're also talking to the state of Michigan about a long-term plan to secure future reserves to the west. In order to secure some short-term reserves, we'd like the road abandoned temporarily, so we can mine through not only the 66-foot wide right-of-way that you own, but also the 100-foot setbacks on either side that the state owns. So it gives us a 266-foot strip, and we're looking at about 1.1 million tons of material that would come out of there. And as you can see, we're looking at a temporary closure of this stretch of Green Road from Loveland to approximately 150 feet east of Hideaway Lane. We're looking at a closure to be about 12 months long, gives us enough time to mine through it and restore. And as mentioned, whatever the county's desires are, the road could be replaced in kind. If you want to go with different grades, we can certainly accommodate that. Or working with the state and the county, if there's another option that's viable, we can certainly look at that. So here in detail is the area that we would mine through. So, public benefits. What we've offered, as Christopher mentioned, is a royalty to the county. You own those minerals, so of course you'd be entitled to the royalty. 90 cents a ton is what we would be willing to pay. It would generate approximately $250,000 in revenue. We're also willing to pave, using asphalt, the 1,200-foot section from Clear Lake to, or the first 1,200 feet to Hideaway Lane. And then, of course, we would replace the road if that's the county's desire of the 2,500-foot section that we'd mine through. So far, we've identified these stakeholders as being in favor of the proposal. And subject to your comments, that completes our presentation. And we're open for any questions you may have.
So how much of it is paved right now? None of it, all the way from Clear Lake Road? Dirt?
I believe, is there a short section paved? Okay.
No?
No?
Okay. And you're saying as part of it, you would pave up to Hideaway Lane? Is that what I heard you say?
Yes, it's about 1,200 feet.
So when you talk about potentially restoring it at the end of the project, it would obviously be at a different elevation, is what we would see, different? Okay.
Yes.
And what if they wanted it paved all the way through? If that was part of the restoration, would that be part of it too or not?
No, we've not offered that.
Phil, I see you raising your hand, go ahead.
I've been reading through this a second time, and I don't see any private residences along this road. Is this all state land road?
It is. Yeah, for the stretch we showed in red that we would close, that's all state land.
All state land,
Yep,
okay.
on both sides.
Want to make sure we weren't boxing one of our residents in.
Yep.
Any other questions? I guess I'm most curious about, again, do we know if they're year-round residents on Hideaway Lane and the other road there? Or maybe I'm not asking the right people, but
I do not.
I'd be curious okay, Bruce is going to address that, I think.
There are a few up in the highway. There's actually two different residential areas. Most of it's up Hideaway Lane, Cozy Cove up in there. There are a couple of residences that are accessed from that other private drive that's further down towards the end of the section that would remain open. And yeah, so it's probably maybe 60% people who have their primary residence somewhere else, and maybe 40% that are there full-time.
And Bruce, you're confident that they're all going to Clear Lake Road, not coming down to Loveland Road right now?
Like I said, Mike's pulling those numbers for us. I suspect there are some people who probably do. What the percentage is, I expect it to be pretty low, because, like I said, that Loveland just doesn't go anywhere.
Right.
If you were going to go to Chelsea, you'd go down the highway. You wouldn't wind through the back roads most of the time, I would think.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the committee? I mean, I'd like to know those numbers, but we have till the 28th anyway if we do forward it on to look at those numbers. What's the pleasure of the committee? Okay, motion to, I assume, approve is to recommend to the full board approval. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. So it goes to the full board, which our meeting normally is next week, but it's the 28th this month.
28th.
And hopefully we can have some more numbers from Mike Rand, I guess, on travelers. Bill?
Do we anticipate a lot of people coming up here next week or next 2 weeks and in protest? Or do the people, is the neighborhood aware of this?
That speaks to that public hearing that I had talked about if they're required to, and that would only be if we abandon it, you said, correct, Bruce? Right. We're temporarily closing it for now to mine the material, if it's done, for 12 months, and then after that, we'd have to decide whether to abandon.
We haven't reached directly out to the residents yet. We could send a letter to them all. I have all of that information. It's a simple matter of drafting it and putting it in the mail and letting them know that it would be on the agenda for the full board on the 28th
So Bruce, you do have a list of all the residents served in those couple of streets there. I personally think it would be a good idea to notify them.
Absolutely.
And make sure they know when we're going to be voting on it, that it's the 28th.
Thank you, Bruce.
Yep, we'll do that.
We could go one step further and host an informational meeting ahead of the board meeting if you'd like.
I think it would be a very good idea, and that way we're prepared, and
Okay.
if there's some objection to it we haven't thought of, we'll know about it.
All right. We'll try to put something together at JC Dot, maybe 6:30 or so in the evening, invite those residents in.
And send a letter out as well.
Right, and probably give the same presentation here, if you'd be willing, Rob, to do that.
Okay, so now I'm going to ask the next question. Where's the county line? Isn't Loveland going to the Washtenaw County?
Loveland's a border road. Washtenaw takes care of it. The county line runs right down the middle of the road.
Okay. Because I know we received notification when they were involved in the aggregate mining that was going to go on in M52 because of the impact to our road system. That's why I'm wondering who all we have to notify and tell them that we're doing something here.
As far as notifying the neighboring county, you mean? Okay, we can do that as well.
I've got one more question. I think I heard Bruce say it, or maybe the company people. Was the east end of Green Road closed and mined at one time? Is that what you said? How long ago was that?
Yes, that was approximately 2006, Ethan? Yes, the far east end, and we'll pull the map back up. You can see a little jog in the road, and that's where we had mined through, realigned it.
This one?
Yep, that's it. If you look at the far east end, you can see that little jog that the road takes. It used to be straight, and we realigned it.
I see.
Jogged to the south, and we planted trees on either side of the road.
Okay, Thank you. Any other questions from commissioners? Okay, thank you. Chris, overbanding.
Thank you. This is similar to the patching program where we're just looking to take advantage of the very good pricing that we have on the last round of bids we did for this. We have additional roads that we're hoping to get done. So we expect prices to rise when we do our bid next year. So we've got about $50,000 we're requesting.
Mike, it's 50,000, is that the level approved here? Up to? Okay. So, any questions from commissioners? If not, we'd be looking for a motion. Motion and support for approval. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Gyratory compactor, I think is how it said.
All right, this is a piece of laboratory equipment that we're seeking approval for that can happen here at committee. As you know, mixed designs are a big part of our recycling program because we're dealing with in-place road material. So we actually put together recipes of the road and we test them. We're able to create samples now using what's called a Marshall hammer method, and I'll show you that in a moment. It's tedious, it takes 2 people, and it's about 2 hours to do each sample. We're doing about 200 to 300 samples in a year, so when you cost that out, you know, it's about a $30,000 savings to purchase this piece of equipment. So the return on investment is about 1.5 years we expect. But this machine also has additional capabilities that I'd like to show you if that's okay. I just have a couple slides if that's all right. They're not in your packet, but they do supplement the material there. So the Marshall hammer method is shown here, and Brett is here today to take questions if you have them. He's our senior civil engineer that handles this program. But basically this hammer, you see, it's kind of a blurry, it's a piece of weight that falls 175 times, and each mix design takes about 18 or more briquettes that we make. And here's a briquette. I happen to bring one. They look like basically large hockey pucks. And what we do is we put these in a special machine. Oh, you have some, Brett. Are those broken? Yes. I don't want to damage the wood here. Hold on.
Christopher,
yeah.
Can you introduce Ben while he's here?
Sure. Oh, we have our 2 Miracle workers coming in that are in the lab. We have Ben and Kaylee. Kaylee? Kaylee, thank you. So he happens to have 2 broken ones, and I'll show you in a moment how they're...
It's not broken. This one's actually going to be broken and will actually be tested here in a few days, so we'll take good care of this one.
So it's hard to make these, so we actually have to shake the material down and get a gradation and then form these pucks. So this is what takes so long, and that's what this slide shows. Besides being loud and tedious, as you'll see, and I won't have audio, I'll save you that, the method does not mimic real-world compaction on the roads. There's nothing out there hammering on the road as it's being constructed. So this machine we're purchasing actually has a gyratory action that mimics the rollers that actually compact the road. So moving on, here is Brett doing his magic. The video is a little choppy. This computer is struggling to take care of.
That's exciting, Brett.
Don't smile.
There you go. So he's got how many times do you have to do this? You have to count these, right, Brett?
Yes, 25 times total.
So you got to chop it up. You can see the mix there. It's already been run through the lab. You remember buying the lab that foams the asphalt. So this is already mixed, just like the machine would mix in the field. So he's getting ready to put it in the hammer. I'm going to try here, see if I can, yeah, it's like slow motion. See if I can jump to the middle of the video. There we go. He's about ready to start it. So he sets the 175 blow counts, turns it on, and then he basically stands back for several minutes with earmuffs on, because this is very loud. If I were to turn on audio, it's banging away in this small lab, echoing. So he was trying to get out of the way of my video. But it's literally 175 times of this. So several minutes later, about how many minutes per sample?
Yeah, it's about 5 minutes. You actually have to stop in the middle of the sample halfway through and turn the puck over. So that's another step that adds to it. So this counter is simply a counter. It doesn't turn off the machine, so that's why you have to monitor the machine to make sure you don't, go a few blows too many or too short. So
Right.
it's a very, very, this method was started to be developed in the 30s. In the 30s, 1930s, and perfected in the 50s. So this has been around forever. We're coming up on, 80 years of this method being used.
So once you pack the puck inside of that casting, you have to get it out. So that's what Brett's going to do here next, and he's literally using a car jack. You can see the hydraulic jack here. He's just pumping away to get it to push out to extrude the sample. You can see it slowly coming out and rising. So 18 times per set, 2.5 hours later, he's got his samples ready to put in the oven for 3 days. So, all right. So the gyratory compaction method, which is what this machine is, shown here, you basically, it goes inside of a chamber, and it just gently massages it, applies pressure, and only one person needed. It's fast, it's quiet, it's efficient, and it gives you real-time feedback on a computer of how it's compacting, so you know what you're achieving. And the extrusion is automated. So we were at Texas A&M University looking at how they do their samples.
We
here's
used to have in our old lab, we had a Ingersoll Rand compressor, I don't know, standalone.
So he's pulled out a sample that's freshly compacted here, and he's basically going to do the extrusion automatically. He sets it on this particular spot on the platform. He's wiping down any water that's spilled out of it, hits a button, and begins to push out the sample. I missed it. There it is. It's coming out. It actually happens quickly. I'm sorry the video is so choppy. So here he's preparing the next one. If I back up a little, you can probably see. There he is. He's pulling out the puck, wiping it down real fast. So he sets it aside, and then he begins to pack the new sample right in the same mold using the loose mix. Brett might be disappointed he doesn't get to mix and stir quite as much. So he just pours that in, and then basically slides in the whole mold. That's what it looks like inside. Sorry, I'm jumping around. Slides that inside the chamber. You can see a computer to the left. That computer to the left is actually tracking all the action after he pushes the button there on the computer-controlled. This is an older model, by the way. So the new one that we're looking at is actually greatly improved and state-of-the-art, with a very long life expected out of the machine. So here I'm trying to get video of the gyrations. It barely moves inside, just ever so slightly. Quiet, quick. The computer is charting and monitoring the compaction as it happens. We can see if something's not going well. And there you have it. So last thing we do, just to show you, is we break these. So here we have Jennifer White, who is working in our lab as well. She's actually doing a test for the indirect tensile strength. This is where we check to see how strong the road will be. This compresses down, and we do it in an indirect fashion. We don't do it this way. We turn it this way on the brake, on the bars, and they push down until it cracks down the center. She should. We had that talk afterwards. Yes. You're thinking right. but it doesn't burst. It's a very slow process. I'll back up here a little bit. It's just a very slow crack formation. But yes, for safety reasons, yes. So it cracks, and what happens is on the meter, it gives you the peak right there. 551 pounds, and then she reads that. We put it into the computer and calculate the strength. We do that for the dry samples, dry road, and then we have some that we soak in water to get what it would be in the spring thaw season. So we know the strength in both conditions. So all I wanted to show you and demonstrate is how we are putting science back into road building so that we know the strength of the roads. Kimmel is one of the mixed designs where our lab has already probably paid for itself in the sense that we avoided problems in the field. We couldn't get the mixed design to pass. So we've made adjustments, modifications, and we're retesting. Do we have a successful mixed design for Kimmel yet?
We do have one for one section of Kimmel, and here in a day or two.
Yes. So we're actually able to test it before we go construct, make a mess of things, have to clean it up, redo the road, embarrassment, all that. So happy to take any questions.
Two from me. Chris, I don't see any bids. Is it a sole source type thing? Only one piece of equipment will do this for you?
That is correct. There were 3 different products that are similar, and our rocket scientists here, Brett, Ben, and our team did explore all of them, and this is the preferred make, model, and vendor, and these companies are proprietary in the sense that they have territories that they represent, so we can only get it out of this particular vendor.
And the $54,000 comes out of your regular budget, not out of the road bonding, correct?
Correct. This is out of our capital budget.
And there's money there for it?
There is, yes.
Any other questions from other commissioners? If not, we're looking for a motion. Would get approved here, if there's support. Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. JC. Used tandem axle tractors. You don't have any videos, do you, Chris?
No, I don't for that. I'd love to show video of trucks. That's our passion. This goes with the tankers and anything else that we need towing. Tractors are very versatile. There are workhorses in the fleet. We've struggled to find good quality used units, and our team has turned these up, and Mark is here. He's our fleet manager. He visited along with one other skilled and experienced mechanic, and they gave very favorable reviews. They do need a few repairs, but nothing major that can't put them into service right away, and then we handle that as we approach winter.
2 questions for me, the miles on them and where are they coming from? I know the company, but I mean, were they in municipal use or private contractor?
Come on up, Mark.
They were a private contractor, locally owned in Lansing. They had a maintenance agreement with Ryder for ProCare, Select Care, maintenance, annual maintenance for the care of the vehicles. So it's good to get something that's from a trusted source in the market.
Okay, Phil, did you have any questions? You're a tractor guy.
I'd like to know how many miles,
Pardon?
how many miles we have on the engine?
One has 330 on the clock and the other has 380.
You know what it costs to replace the engine?
Not right offhand, probably somewhere around
30?
Yeah, somewhere
Yeah, for the
25 to 30 to go through it.
Yeah, it's a good engine, but it's
Yeah, they should
costly to
easily
replace.
turn 700 anyways. So
We're hoping to get a good 5+ years out of these, if not more, maybe 10.
So you think with the miles are at half the engine life? Ballpark?
not quite.
A little less?
Yeah, somewhere in the ballpark. There's about 800,000 or so.
Not a bad price.
It's difficult to find them.
Correct.
It's
Is this a
definitely-
Michigan special, got the hydraulics on it?
Yes, it's set to go.
Yep, so it can run our flow boys, our large 50-ton haulers, low boys as well. That's what we like about it, is a lot of versatility with these. We don't want to buy new on everything, because then we've got the problem of replacement in the future at the same exact time. So with these, we are buying new tractors, as you know, but those are out 15 years for scheduled replacement. These would be out in a 5 to 10 year window.
Nice looking units. I'm jealous.
Okay, if there's no other questions, the motion's in order and it would go to the full board.
Make a move, we purchase the semis.
Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Move to the board. Chris, your semi-annual report.
Great, thank you. You have this report in your packet, and we're just going to give a quick overview with some highlights. I'm going to have Bob and Angie represent their respective divisions. I get my keyboard set here. So Angie will cover the engineering division, Bob the operations, and then there's just a few slides on what's happening with our permitting world and regulatory compliance and risk mitigation. And then we have a new communications manager, Shanita Davis, who just started a week ago, and she's already hit the ground running 2 weeks ago, I guess now, hosted our fair booth and so forth. So we are very happy to have promoted her within. So Angie, there you are, right behind me.
All right. How are we making this move? Arrows?
Yes, or quick mouse, either one.
All right, good morning. Quickly. It's really hard to summarize what our team's been doing this year. We're 7 months into the year, and very, very, very exciting times for the engineering team. We have a great team on staff. We have a list here of some of the things that we're doing, but I want to highlight that every single project we do, our engineering team, we have to look to see if we have to pull permits. So we've been working on DEQ permits, design for all the projects, including the local projects that we're doing with townships, Spring Arbor Summit, and the other townships we're working at. We're actually doing designs. We know what we're going to do out there before we get out on site. We have public outreach that our engineering team's doing for majority of the projects, whether it be door hangers or public meetings, as we talked about earlier. The construction oversight, we have someone from the engineering team on almost every single project, whether it be in-house with the maintenance operations team or let projects for construction. And then we coordinate with other agencies, MDOT, the townships, DEQ, on every single project we do. We're reaching out to make sure, trying to make sure we make contact with everyone that it would influence. This is a map of all the construction activities, including maintenance for 2018. I do believe that if I put a map of my 5-year career before being here at JCDOT, I don't think we'd have that much color on a map. There's a lot of work going on this year for Jackson. It's approximately $26 million worth of work. This project is one that you guys saw last year. It was 2017 funded, but did not get built until really late in the season, December, January. So it got completed this year. It was the signal upgrades for Airport Road and County Farm Road, this was a safety grant. These are the projects for 2018, our grant-funded projects. We have on there the federal aid, which is RTF and JAX, and then we also have the exchange program that we participated in this year. The Ann Arbor Road pathway is under construction now. We believe it's a little bit ahead of schedule, but it's targeted to be done in September with Bailey Construction. The project's going well. No hiccups hit at this time. We have one pole for the consumers that will be moved shortly to get around the path, and that's the only thing in our way right now to complete by September. King Road should be in the October letting. That's one of the purchased federal aid projects. It's 5.2 miles of a crescent shape. Michigan Ave Bridge is actually moving. We have our first review comments from Amtrak. The design firm is making the changes, and we'll submit it back to Amtrak for their blessing, and then it can go to let for construction. I don't have a date for construction yet, but as it moves forward, we'll update you in our monthlies. Moon Lake Road Bridge, we actually have a public meeting tomorrow night at 7:30 at Napoleon High School. This project is on schedule to be built this winter, so we won't cause any delays for people to use it for the recreational use in the summertime. These are drafts of the renderings that we're putting before the residents to get their input for the stone patterns for the fascia of the arch. To get their support in the project, we want their input on what the final look of that structure is. So the rounded stone or the squared stone to blend in with nature. Norville Road is a project that has the 500,000 of RTF funds that we had originally for a few years, and then we purchased federal aid, the exchange, to extend that to cover the whole stretch. So that's a crush and shape that will be in an October letting, with construction to most likely happen next year with such a late letting. Rives Junction Path is scheduled, it's the same contractor as the Ann Arbor, so they'll move from the Ann Arbor path to this one. So September and completion by November.
Angie, can I ask a question on that? We have talked, each time we talked about it, about the maintenance agreement for after it's completed. Has that been completed yet? My recollection was the school was going to step up and take care of the maintenance and plowing of it.
The township, I believe, and we're working on that. Right, Bruce? You and I, we're working on that, writing that. We have one for the Ann Arbor, and Rives, we're using that as a mirror, and the township has agreed to maintain that, which on the school, by the school, I think the school will maintain, but we'll cover that in that document and bring it to you guys.
Back up a sec here to Norville Road. It was scheduled for 2 separate projects.
Yep.
Now it's going to be from Sharon Valley to Michigan Ave?
Yes.
In one project?
Yes.
Next year?
Yeah, so it was to Fall Road, I believe, originally, and it was for this year. But then with purchasing the exchange money, we were able to do the entire project as one, and it will move it to next year. The design, we have a vertical curve that we're bringing into design standards, and then widening. The ADT of part of it requires a 6-foot shoulder, so the design was pretty in-depth for that project. And there's 19 wetlands along there that we had to work with DEQ for mitigation impacts.
So a lot of it will get a new base?
It will all be a crush and shape.
Okay.
Yep.
Mike?
Yeah, if you could, for the benefit of the board, describe crush and shape, and also, when you say vertical curb, and wetlands, I think of inhibiting turtles and other wildlife, so if you could.
So the vertical curve is a hill. The sight distance going over the hill when you can't see very well. It's not to the design standards, so we'll be cutting down a portion of the hill. It's close to an intersection, and it's slipping my mind which one it is. So we'll be removing the road, taking down the hill, and then building the road back on top of there. Wetland mitigation. Norville Road pretty much was built through a ton of wetlands. So when we widen the 6-foot shoulder, the angle repos of those shoulders are going out into wetlands by 2 foot, 3 foot at the most in areas. And so we had to work with them, so the areas that we're filling in the wetland, then we have to purchase mitigation credits for the same drainage district. So we're getting it through the DEQ bank like we did for Moon Lake Road Bridge. Credits that will have named our name on it so they can't impact it. So it's like replacing the wetlands we're impacting on that project.
There's not curb there.
Curb? No. No. No, it'll have the same look. It's just we're widening because the ADT requires, instead of the 2 or 3 foot shoulder we have now, another 3 to 4 foot widening. Oh, crush and shape is where it's the traditional method, so the rototill, we're eating up the road and laying it back down, and then we'll pave on top. So it's got the HMA and the gravel base of the existing road.
What will be the class of the road?
The class of the road won't change with the crush and shape method. So the existing class, is Norville Class A? I don't think it is.
The truck route.
No.
This existing is a truck route.
It's a primary road. I think it has seasonal restrictions on it. Norville?
Will the oil wells
Yeah.
to the north?
Yep. Yep. We would love to do the recycling on it if we could, but the timing did not work out. Because of the federal aid, it's got over $2.5 million worth of money on it, and to do the cold in place with our crews, it would have had to have been backed out, and the federal money couldn't be used for that portion. So it was timing. In the future, though, we plan to coordinate our federal aid money so that we can do the primary, the cold in place on the roads, and then just use our federal aid to resurface all of those roads. Until there's change with the rules for MDOT with the federal aid money, we can't use that money to reimburse our crews to do work unless it's under a threshold, which is 200,000 for its account. Is it 200,000?
100,000 per project?
100 per project. We would love to do the cold in place on every single road we do. West Michigan Ave, that's a resurface that was scheduled to start today, but Michigan Paving with their I-94 project has bumped it to hopefully next Monday, I believe. We'll keep you updated on that. This is our chip seal project that we did some wedging last year, chip seal this year. They were supposed to do the pavement marking. If you had any calls, the pavement marking that was put down there, it was just layout paint. Someone called and said it looked like my child used watercolor on the road. That was just the layout. They're doing thermoplastic. It was supposed to be done this weekend, but I don't know if it was for sure. And then we have a preventative maintenance project, which is resurfacing on all of these roads. That's the purchase federal aid, 20.55 miles of resurfacing. So these roads are in pretty good condition already. They just need a resurface. And then our Spring Arbor and Summit project. So this is the 3-year map you guys saw when we created the projects. This year we have how many miles? I don't recall the miles, but what I wanted to highlight on Spring Arbor and Summit, we were able to analyze the roads, and we have taken about 10 miles in each township of what was slotted for a crush and shape traditional construction, and we're using the CIR on that. So in our CIR is another method of crush and shape, so we still have it on here as a crush and shape project, but we're doing the CIR on them. This is the Summit map with the 3 years, and then our 2018 projects that we're doing this year, and will be completed by November. We also are working with the other townships. We have just over $650,000 in the other various townships that we're doing different types of maintenance with them for the 70-30 split. The ones that are 100% is because they're not township projects. They're parking lots or dust control type things that we're doing with the township. And then our cold in place recycling program, our super roads. We have approximately, I think, 3 miles done to date, and we plan to get the 27 miles done. This is the list of roads and the priority we plan to do them at this time. I wanted to highlight on the left or the right, there's the construction schedule. And with our new tankers that you guys approved, the 2 additional, we're able to, fingers crossed, weather permitting, get this project list completed. If we didn't purchase them with the way the contractors' tanks are working, our production rate was cut in half, and we'd only get to the, through all the locals for Spring Arbor and Summit pretty much for construction season this year.
Angie, can I ask a question here, you or Chris? So it looks like we're only doing 5 miles or a little over 5 miles of county primary roads, and the rest of it is all on the local projects. Was that your vision when we bought this, to be a breakdown like that, or was there an intent to do more county primary roads with it? And what's the plan for next year, do you think?
Well, our goal is to do 20 to 30 miles of primary each year, and then the remainder in local roads. So it's heavily funding driven, and the township projects, as you know, have deadlines. So, and also our funding, we've got a lot of money going out on various projects right now, so we're waiting for the road funding bill to ramp up next year and the year after. So we'll be able to increase our primary roads, because that's 100% on our responsibility, if that makes sense. So this is an unusual year where it's heavily local, if that makes sense.
So you'd see it a 50-50 split or so next year?
Yeah, that'd be our target. We have 950 miles or so of local roads, about 1,000, and then 550 of primary, of which 250 need to be redone in the next 10-year window, so about 25 a year would be our target, if that makes sense. But it has to be funding dependent. And as Angie mentioned, we're trying to use our federal aid money for the the asphalt application. If we get ahead of the program and recycle the base, we'll have the federal aid money used for paving. This is new to MDOT. We're setting up some meetings with officials there to talk through this, make sure they're okay with it. They're used to doing cradle to cradle on a project. So here we're proposing, at the time they do what's called a grade inspection, they're going to see the road as it is now, and we're telling them, no, it'll be ready for pavement when your project starts. So we have to have a new procedure for that.
And then our lab, it's exciting. My mad scientists are back here, Ben, Kaylee, and Brett. And Jennifer's not here, she's on vacation today, but they're the main ones that are working in the lab. I'm very proud of them. They took a lab from dirt and nothing, and they've got it functioning. They're working out the problems. They're saving us a lot of money by doing the mixed designs in-house. I think you guys know that it ranged from $3,000 to $5,000 to do one mixed design every single time. And we're doing a lot of mixed designs. They're producing, they've overcome what I thought they could. They're doing great. I'm very proud of them. And then our GPR, we're still learning. There's a lot of learning involved with the LiDAR and the GPR and the van and how to use it. But I can tell you that every single person on the engineering team, when we're in our brainstorming, our planning sessions, they say, the GPR, we need to run the road. That'll answer our questions. It's the answer to so many of our questions when we're doing projects, design, and planning for it. So hopefully next year when I'm standing before you guys doing our semi-annual, I'll have a lot more details on that, but it is a blessing in disguise for the future of our engineering team and the county. Yeah. How off-road? Yeah. Well, the van's not off-road, but the cart that we purchased is. So we're still learning, but we purchased a cart, and you two answer questions on this one better than me, but we have an off-road cart that can be pushed along and scan. Ooh.
Trying to figure out if things
Graves.
moved or didn't get moved. Is it something that we can pull on? Things like this.
That would be fun.
Yeah, we'd love to find dead bodies. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Yes, this can be used for that, and it often is, actually. Underground storage tanks, all that kind of stuff. It looks like a jogging stroller, a baby jogging stroller kind of thing, with the antenna and the controller all mounted inside, and you just roll over the terrain. You lay out a grid and so forth. Yeah, that'd be great. We're in the midst of training still. This is very sophisticated stuff. In fact, a representative from Finland is here this week to work with our team again on our van and our vehicle, and then we have a boot camp, it's called, on GPR in about 2 weeks for 4 of our members. Ben and Brett are going along with a couple other engineers.
And then our interns, we had 11 this year, and they're our saviors when it comes to busy work. They rated all of our roads this year, and we'll get you guys a report as soon as we have it all summarized into our pretty little table for you. Kaylee is working hard. I mean hard. They're giving her the dirt work, the shaking of the sieves and everything in the lab. They're doing inspection on our projects. So we have somebody on every single project they're inspecting, and then we have our main full-time person that will oversee them, but they're on all of our projects too. So they've been a great help, and I appreciate you guys allowing us to have that program. Bob?
Any questions for Angie?
Oh, sorry, yes.
Daniel?
Sorry, just a quick question. I don't know if you could answer, Angie, or maybe someone else from the team, but I know you guys were a huge help to the Summer 18 work program. I was just curious what kind of experiences the youth were getting that you guys have working for you, and how the experience has been on your guys' end this year.
I can tell you, we've taken them out in the field a couple times, various times. They went out and saw the CIR program, and they've been on some of the construction project with our engineering team, so shadowing them, just getting to know what's out there. And then we have them in the office. They've done some different like paperwork tasks. We've had them scanning some documents and stuff. So they're around the engineering team. I know that Bob has one, so he can answer that question, and then there's some that have been up front. One of them covered a meeting for us, and he did a great job answering phones. So they're doing, I have had a good experience, and they're doing good.
Well, good. I definitely want to say thank you guys for the help with getting them into that program as well.
Yeah.
It's a good program.
Bob, you have 22 pages and you have 6 minutes.
I promise I won't be as long as Angie. In reply to your question, Commissioner, we did have 3 of the participants. One to 2 of them rotated up front answering phones and greeting the people that came in the door, stuff like that. We had them rotate down through the stock room and our fleet maintenance. Mark Haas, the fleet manager, would pair them up with somebody and just kind of shadow. We didn't have them doing too many things because of some of the safety concerns in the maintenance shop, but they were down there like seeing what was going on, learning. They worked in the, like I said, the stock room, kind of to see how that hall flows, and we had one individual, he was quite interested in those 2 areas, and so he kind of stayed there. The other 2 worked a lot with Angie in the engineering and up front in the administrative staff. So I think they all enjoyed it. It was good for us, for them. So okay. On my,
You have 3 minutes left.
okay. I'll make it. No. Okay. Okay, as far as our primary road projects, we basically did 12 roads that, with all of our paper patching on our primary roads, basically came out to a little over 33 and a half miles that we did there. For our overbanding, that's complete for the year. We basically did another 45, almost 46 miles. They're pretty much spread out throughout the county. All the projects that we did over the last 2 years that are starting to get cracks. That's one of the reasons we asked for the extra money to address some of those before they get away from us. As far as our contracted pothole patching, we kind of talked about that again with the extra money that we're asking for. As far as I'm concerned, what Jim's done with these crews has been outstanding. We've got all kinds of good compliments across the board. Very, very few complaints, and I think we've addressed those. There has been a couple issues where I'd have to say something to Jim, say, hey, go out and talk to this crew, or can you find out what's going on here? They immediately addressed it, took care of it, and we never had another problem. But, yep.
Are we using hot patch on these potholes?
Yes.
Okay, so
It's all HMA.
they're not gonna just all of a sudden all fall apart when the winter weather gets here and the water leaks down in around the...
No guarantee.
No guarantee, but the way they've been doing it and the care that they've been taking to do them right, they should hold up fairly well. And we'll have to see that over the winter to see what we'll need to do for next year. But,
Sometimes the road around them falls apart, what we see on a lot of our.
yeah, that's a lot of them. The repair stays there, but the rest of the road falls apart around it.
I know with the cold patch, it's just very temporary, and
Yep, yes.
these are more designed to be permanent.
And that's why we're trying to get them to finish up while the plants are still operating. On the slide there, you can see that they're averaging 70 tons a day. That's a lot of tonnage to shovel off, shovel by shovel, for a 2-man crew. All these, 15 2-man crews, that's a lot of tonnage. Our local road paver patching, the next 2 slides. This first slide shows what we've done in the past, what we're projecting for this year. This slide is where we're at. So we've still got about another 13,500 tons that we're intending to put down. They're out there running right now. And actually, we've got some new members on the team that we hired that are very good with the paving and the asphalt. And the patches they've been putting down have been way better than what we've done in the past, and they're Last year, I think we were running about 500 tons a day, and we thought that was pretty good, and they're running 700 tons a day right now. So they're far above what we were doing in the past, and hopefully we can get this all finished up and not have any issues with the paper patching this year. The chip seal, basically is what we paper patched last year, and then we chip sealed it this year. There's 11 roads totaling 2,200 miles. Again, they were scattered throughout, and then some of these are actually village streets for Parma and a couple things like that, but they're not all primary. They're a mix of local, primary, and village. The local road improvement projects are matched. Angie kind of already covered a lot of that on hers, but basically there's 12 roads there. I think our share of that is about 198,000. Yes. Yes. It takes a lot of trucking. Yep. And that's our biggest issue is it takes 20-some people, 18, 20 people to do the CIR, 25 to do chip seal. It takes almost the same to do paving. So we can really only do CIR in one major function at a time. We can't do chip seal and patch at the same time as CIR. We just don't have the people. So yes, that is a big crew. Some of these new flow boys that we're getting will help, but you can't use a flow boy everywhere. You got to use some tandems in there for the curves and some of the small places. But yes, that's a normal crew. And that doesn't count the fog crew that comes after them. That's 2 people plus like a bunch of flaggers that we get from Access Point. And they're actually in the process of finishing that up right now. The township match, like I said, our match to that whole portion was just shy of 200,000 for this year. But again, it's a lot of primary, local, and the village projects too. The cold in place, we've already kind of covered that. Angie pretty much hit most of that. I'll skip over that one. Then our other maintenance activities, we basically finished up our chip seal, not chip seal, the over spray patching for the 2018 projects, and then we're continuing on with our mowing and stuff like that. We did add stump removal this year to try to, and the contractors that are doing the tree work are also, once they work a couple days on the trees, one crew comes back and grinds the stumps and takes care of everything there. So that's getting that all cleared up and not waiting until winter to get the stumps and stuff removed. Other than that, I just wanted to say a couple things that weren't on here that are coming up is our second round of brine is started this week, so they'll be grading and brining for the next few weeks. Our mowing started last week, and hopefully the paint for all the projects will start about the 20th of this month. Anybody got any questions?
Think, Bob, any other questions? I seen one.
Go ahead, Doctor.
The work that you're doing on the roads to fill the cracks, the potholes and so on, are you also doing those on the roads like in Spring Arbor that you're going to be replacing?
Are we what?
Are you going to be doing that in roads that you're going to be replacing like in Spring Arbor?
If they're significant, yes, we'll fill the potholes again. We don't need any big dangerous potholes out there. Okay. But if it's planned to get repaved and it's just the normal, cracks and stuff like that, then we'll just wait and get done with the project.
So the cracks, when you go along and you seal those, you're not going to be really doing those?
Well, no, we won't do any of those like that, because if it's just crack sealing, the projects will take care of that kind of stuff.
Because I've had some of my constituents say, why are you doing this if you're going to be doing the roads and so on, so.
In Summit Spring Arbor, we're doing probably very little of that. Like I said, if it's a big, like a rim buster pothole or, we still need to take care of the emergency kind of stuff to keep people from damaging their vehicles, but.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
I did tell them 2 to 3 minutes total each, so.
So you could use 70 to 90 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to be extremely brief. You see the rest in there, fleet maintenance, there's so much that we do, and I'm extremely proud of our team, so this is very hard to condense it all. We want you just to be aware and have the information. You know that you can contact us with any questions. So we have a lot of additional information in here. We're just extremely busy. I think in conclusion, I'll just highlight that the permitting program has been very successful. We're extremely busy, more permits so far than we had all of last year. So that just shows the economy and how it's taken off. So I did want to express once again our thanks. You've all been tremendous to work with, and we thank you so much for your support. And one last note, the Denton Road parking lot that you all approved for, I think, up to $200,000. That did come in at just under $130,000, I think between $120,000 and $130,000 total, so it was much less than we thought, and I thank you for your trust in giving me that approval. It allowed us to really move things along quickly and negotiate the pricing, so we were very pleased with the economic outcome of that project.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Mike, that takes us to the Cascades Non-Endowed Special Project Fund Addendum. Pretty much a no-brainer, looks to me like, correct?
It really is.
We can have a motion unless somebody has a question on it.
Support.
Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Need a motion to pay the claims? Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Other minutes and the September reporting schedule is there. Takes us to public comment. Public comment. Hearing none. Committee member comment. Hearing none, we're